There is a point where you have to stop and ask yourself what the system is actually doing and who is it working for. On one hand, you've got the Washington State Attorney General's office pouring tens of thousands of hours into lawsuits against the administration of Donald Trump. Time, resources, taxpayer dollars at a scale that would make even major private law firms blink. On the other hand, down in California, under the watch of Gavin Newsom, a man once described by a judge as the monster parents fear the most is being prepared for release. After crimes so horrific, they permanently shattered multiple families. Two completely different stories, two different states. But they point to the same uncomfortable question. What are our institutions prioritizing right now? Because from where a lot of people are sitting, it doesn't look like public safety or common sense is at the top of that list. This is Left Coast News. Let's get into it. From Seattle to Los Angeles, this is Left Coast News. No apologies, just the truth. Washington State Democrats continue to waste taxpayer funds. The Washington State Attorney General's office staff has billed more than 34,000 hours working on lawsuits filed against the Trump administration since November of 2024. According to records obtained by the Center Square. More than 2/3 of those hours billed within a 6-month period. The 34,000 hours represents a combined 1,416 days or 3.9 years of billable work. That's a significant amount of time even for an agency with 800 lawyers, Citizen Action Defense Fund Executive Director Jackson Maynard told the Center Square. For comparison, a lot of private law firms have billable requirements for lawyers in the range of 2,000 to 2,400 per year. That's equivalent to 100 lawyers working full-time on those cases. However, according to AGO Deputy Communications Director Mike Falk, there are 30 attorneys handling the litigation. There have been a total of 758 lawsuits filed against the Trump administration during his second term, according to Just Security's legal tracker. Of those, 338 are awaiting a court ruling. The plaintiffs have had 19 cases closed, ultimately ruled in their favor, while 30 cases have closed in the favor of the federal government. Monumental waste in Washington. Down in California, we continue to see the left coast trend of letting dangerous criminals off the hook. Why do Democrats love dangerous criminals so much? Why don't they care about your safety, the safety of your children? The California Parole Board's decision to release a serial child molester who used candy and toys to lure children as young as 3 years old has sparked outrage from victims, prosecutors, and law enforcement officials. David Allen Funston, 64, was convicted in 1999 of 16 counts of kidnapping and child molestation after a horrific crime spree in Sacramento County, during which he kidnapped, raped, and beat children aged 3 to 7. The judge described him as the monster parents fear the most and sentenced him to 3 consecutive life terms plus 20 years. Funston was recently granted parole under California's Elderly Parole Program, which allows inmates over 50 who have served at least 20 years to be considered for release. He was initially denied parole in May 2022, but was granted suitability for release in 2025. Governor Gavin Newsom requested a review of the decision, and the Board of Parole Hearings reaffirmed it February 18, 2026. Newsom did not override the decision. Former prosecutor Anne Marie Schubert, who prosecuted Funston in what she called the worst child predator case I've ever seen, has urged the state to screen him for the sexually violent predator program, which would allow a civil commitment to a state hospital instead of public release. He was hunting for young children, Schubert, now a victims' rights advocate, told the Modesto Bee. It boggles the mind. He's the poster child for why sex offenders should be exempt from elderly parole. Court records at the time showed Funston had a prior sexual assault conviction in Colorado before moving to California. According to authorities, he served time in Colorado prison for third-degree sexual assault, but was never required to register as a sex offender when he relocated to Sacramento County. He is a serial predator, is what he is, Deputy District Attorney Hillary Bagley said in 1996 as charges mounted ahead of his 2.5-month trial, according to previous B reporting. He is every parent's worst nightmare. Schubert provided graphic details to the Los Angeles Times of a horrible case in 1995 where Funston used candy to lure a 5-year-old girl into his car and then took her up into the hills and molested her. He beat her. He took her underwear and shoved it down her throat because she was screaming. He then raped her to the point that she has vaginal trauma, Schubert recalled. Sacramento County Sheriff Jim Cooper held a press conference Monday and blasted the parole board's decision to release the dangerous predator back onto the streets. He lured them with candy and Barbie dolls. He stole their childhoods. I've seen the reports. They're horrific, Cooper said. The sheriff described how Funston kidnapped one little girl in 1995, viciously raped her, and then drove her to another location where he punched her and kicked her out of the car. There's no explanation. There are some folks who deserve a second chance at life. Someone who does these types of things doesn't deserve a second chance at life, Cooper said. The people of Sacramento and every parent across California deserve answers. The sheriff questioned why California would be okay with this releasing an infamous child predator like Funston back onto the streets and said California's parole program needs to be changed. Sergeant Rafael Rodriguez, who worked the case in the 90s as a detective, said he was outraged when he read the monster he had helped put behind bars was about to be released. Rodriguez told reporters that the entire Sacramento Police Bureau has not forgotten the appalling Funston case. The sergeant said he immediately called Sheriff Cooper and said, "We can't allow this. This is wrong." He lamented that while Funston is being released back onto the streets, his victims are serving the life sentences that come with severe trauma. Wherever he is going to be released, we better watch him, Rodriguez warned. During the presser, Under Sheriff Mike Ziegler stressed that child molesters like Funston cannot be rehabilitated. There are certain crimes that cannot be rehabilitated, and this is one of them, Ziegler said. Amelia, who was 3 years old when she was molested by Funston, also spoke during the presser to plead with the state to keep him incarcerated for life. "I feel that he does not deserve his freedom," she said. "He does not need to be back in public society. He is a criminal child molester who is dangerous and deserves to spend the rest of his life behind bars," she added. The Sacramento Sheriff's Office provided additional details about the case in a statement on X Monday. The elderly parole program was meant for those who no longer pose a danger. In cases like this, it fails. Our number one responsibility is to protect children. That should never be controversial or partisan, the sheriff's office stated. Protecting children is not rhetoric. It is common sense. Protect children first, always. Funston remains incarcerated at the California Institution for Men in Chino, and the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation has not disclosed his release date or location, citing safety and security reasons for him. Ziegler told reporters, however, that the likelihood of Funston being released right back into Sacramento was very high. You really have to ask yourself, why? So here's where all this lands. You've got tens of thousands of man-hours paid for by you being funneled into political legal fights against Donald Trump, while at the same time a system in California overseen by Gavin Newsom is preparing to release a man who destroyed the lives of children in ways most people can't even stomach reading about. That's not just a contrast, that is a warning sign, because government always shows you its priorities, not through speeches, but through where it spends its time, money, and energy. And right now on the West Coast, a lot of people are looking around and asking a pretty basic question. Why does it feel like protecting political interests gets more attention than protecting the public? At some point, voters are going to have to decide if this is acceptable or if it's time to start holding people accountable again at the ballot box, through public pressure, and by demanding policies that actually put safety, families, and communities first. Because if that doesn't happen, this isn't the exception, this is the direction. So let me ask you, do you think this is what government should be focused on right now? Tens of thousands of taxpayer-funded hours going to political lawsuits, while decisions like this parole case are even being considered? Or does something feel completely out of balance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Aren't you sick of this? If you got value out of this, make sure you're following the show everywhere. YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcast, X, Facebook, Instagram, Truth Social, LinkedIn, TikTok, Brighteon, and Patreon. Hit that follow or subscribe button, leaving a rating and review where you can, and most importantly, drop a comment below and join the conversation. And don't forget to share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. This is Left Coast News, and we'll catch you on the next one.